Okay, I'm sorry I didn't manage the clock very well in the last segment there. We got cut off right in the middle of biogeography. But again, the idea is the location of a particular species gives clues as to evolutionary history. One such example is this geographic distribution. When Pangaea was in existence, primate species shared this supercontinent, but when South America split from Africa, then in essence the two groups were exposed to different environments and were not able to interbreed with one another. That led to what we see today as old world monkeys and the great apes that we see here, with larger brains, more well-developed hands, and shorter tails, and their differences from new world monkeys that have these longer prehensile tails that are used for hanging, less well-developed thumbs, smaller brains. When organisms are separated by geography and are exposed to different environments, they can adapt in different ways. Let's see, another interesting example are endemic species. Now, if organisms are exposed to particular environments and are separated from a larger population, they can specialize in very unique ways. And an example that we can see is on the island of Flores in Indonesia. Homo floresiensis, the example or the artist rendering that we see here, is a person that has the proportions of a modern human, but is a little shorter than 3 feet tall. Now, this is interesting because, again, this is a fully anatomically modern person, other than the fact that they're all incredibly short. Now, there is other dwarfing that occurred on the same island. They had like dwarf elephants on the island. And the idea, the supposition is that on small islands with limited resources, one evolutionary trend may be for organisms to become smaller and smaller so that they have less of a need for materials or lower nutrient needs. So again, you know, the location of organisms is going to influence their sort of evolutionary path. Along with that, you can presume, or oftentimes will be the case, that organisms that are more closely related to one another will oftentimes have similar habitats, similar locations as well. So organisms, say for instance, that live on the Galapagos Islands are oftentimes anatomically and certainly genetically more similar to species that are more closely related or located on the mainland of South America. Now, I will say that there has been some genetic evidence that suggests that some of those Galapagos finches that were supposed to have originated in South America may actually have DNA that is more closely related to birds found in the Caribbean. So, you know, the story is always open. All right. Again, the big idea with all this is that all life is related and has had to change over time, and that, again, that mechanism of change is natural selection. Now, the best way to think of this is this sort of tree-shaped pattern. Darwin even made note of that during his travels. He thought of this big tree of life where the common ancestor over time split into different populations that evolved in different directions. And again, some branches may die out where others continue on and continue to evolve in different ways. Let's see, Haeckel, he did a lot of embryological study and again came up with his own sort of branching pattern for the evolution of organisms. And today we can add to sort of these anatomical interpretations of evolutionary relatedness DNA analysis. So by looking not only at anatomical features, we can also look at chromosomal features and DNA sequences to see how closely related species are. And sometimes anatomical classifications are overturned by genetic evidence, but in many cases the lines of evidence corroborate. So it gives some validity to hypothesized evolutionary relationships. So that sort of lays it all out. You can see, this common ancestor, and you branch into the main groups, the archaea and bacteria and eukarya, and then you get to plants and animals, fungi, protists, all these other organisms, and all this extensive branching. But the idea is all these organisms on here share some genes with one another, and we have some fundamental differences, but all life is still related. So again, this idea of common ancestry, okay, well, you see the similarity in structure of the skeletons of the great apes, including humans, and again, extinct and living species. All right, quick summary of the big ideas. Mutation creates these changes in DNA sequence. Oftentimes mutations can be harmful, like what you may have seen in your paper bird activity, where sometimes mutations cause the birds to fly a shorter distance than they had in the previous generation. But occasionally you get mutations that are adaptive, and as a result of this, some organisms that have these adaptive traits are going to have greater reproductive success, and over time the population is going to shift towards these more adaptive traits. So natural selection causes populations to become better adapted. So that's an important driving force. Populations become better fit for their given environments as natural selection acts on the population. Now, natural selection acts directly on phenotype, not genotype. Certainly genes are influenced, but it's the phenotype of the organism that natural selection will act on. Say, for instance, you hear the peppered moth example from your freshman year of biology. Predators act on the phenotype of the organism, how easily the organism's seen. Now that does have impact on genotypes and gene pools, but again, natural selection acts on phenotype. An important point to make is that it's the population that evolves, not individuals. Again, individuals can have mutations, individuals can survive or not, but over time it's the characteristics of the population and the overall phenotype and gene pool of the population that will change. Let's see. Another interesting point, what may be adaptive in one circumstance is not necessarily as adaptive as environments change. A polar bear has the fur needed to survive in a warmer climate and the coloration to help it hide from prey. But as polar bears need to move to increasingly southern locations to try and find food, they may be more easily spotted by potential prey animals if the area isn't completely covered in snow and ice. So again, something that's adaptive in one context may be maladaptive in another. So again, it's the population that's going to have to make the shift over time and not individuals. One other point, I don't know if it's on here or not, but it's important to realize is that natural selection only acts on traits that are already in existence. So it's not like you can all of a sudden sprout wings. It's the fact that you have to take structures that are already in existence and make adaptations to those structures. So you're not going to have your arms and legs and then grow a pair of wings. In winged mammals like bats, they've taken existing structures like the arms and then adapted those structures. So again, evolution only builds on what exists. It doesn't create from scratch. Additionally, I want to make the point that evolution doesn't seek perfection. Evolution is about survival. So organisms the trend is not to become more intelligent or better or whatever the case may be. The trend is to survive. So the mutations that are created to cause new traits may give organisms a greater likelihood of success, but it's not driving organisms toward greater or grander structures or abilities. Now, the AP curriculum puts a lot of emphasis on sort of evolutionary understanding or putting an evolutionary context on what we learn in class, because it is thought of as this great unifying idea. That being, excuse me.
5578.
So yeah, again, the idea is by understanding evolution, it allows us to see how changes in DNA and ultimately traits can lead to adjustments and changes we see in life. And it sort of gives you the yin and yang and all that good stuff. So there we have it. So at this point, you want to hit these big ideas here. Again, sort of be able to explain the ideas, talk about the influences on Darwin, describe how natural selection works. Let's see. Yeah, you get the general idea. So just focus on the big ideas and try and understand the context for everything.